Media evaluation question 1. In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? Well, firstly, we looked at many thrillers, including Seven, Red Eye, and Jaws. We looked at the codes and conventions of these thrillers and aspects of them. We looked in detail at the camera work, the sound, the editing, the graphics, etc. When it came to making our own thriller, our choice was based upon many factors. This included the storyline, what we would like to see, personal interests, and what we also think would be appealing to our target audience, which is around 15 to 21 years of age, both male and female. We were limited as to what we could use in our thriller, for example, no weapons, no blood, or no cars, so we decided to imply the use of some of these, i.e. the hint of death within the scene. We didn't show any weapons exactly, we just implied that they had been used to commit a murder. We chose to exclude any other live characters within our opening sequence, so that we feel that the audience could establish a relationship and empathise with our main characters. We can see this in Jaws, where in the first opening sequence it is mainly based upon two main characters. We decided that out of the thrillers we looked at, we were going to try and use factors from all of them and combine them within our thriller. For example, the dark lighting scene from Red Eye, the focus on certain characters from Jaws, and the music setting mood from Seven, which is from the beginning. We decided to use the music from which we've seen in Seven. We decided to use that in our opening sequence near the end to help keep our audience on edge and keep them interested. With regards to our narrative, we decided to choose a complex narrative in order to appeal to our target audience. We wanted to keep them on edge, keep them interested, and keep them guessing. As a result of this, we decided to make the opening sequence not very clear until you understand the story a bit more and making them want to watch our film. When we came to making our thriller and deciding on the final things, we thought codes and conventions were very important. We needed to include many of these to make our thriller very good. A few of these we thought about were lighting. We wanted to make the lighting low, wanted to include dark clothing with dark colours and things. Typical codes and conventions, which you see in many thrillers, wanted to use some of these to create an eerie atmosphere. We used music and tied it in with the film to build suspense, much like in other thrillers like Red Eye, where it's fast paced, making the audience get involved, making them think, making them concentrate. We wanted to show our actor looking very scared and on edge, so as a result our camera angle choice for this was that we decided to get an extreme close-up of his face, looking round, looking nervous. This we thought made the audience look like they were there, like they were looking at our actor straight on. When we had him for the mirror scene, we thought having the over-the-shoulder shot looking into the mirror, seeing his reflection would be the best shot for us. We could see his facial expressions, we could see behind him, it looked like we were there. We used a reverse shot when he looked in the mirror, and then he looked over to the corner, and then back to the mirror. We thought that was very good. I think the opening sequence went well, but I think we could have used more of our time to film and less time planning. The main reason for this is that I feel we had too many continuity errors, and the camera was shaking a bit. If we'd have looked at this earlier, we could have gone and refilmed, but time had it we couldn't. I think if we had taken more time, then we would have made our thriller a bit better, got our story across a bit more. But in saying that, I think our storyline, what we wanted to get across mainly, went really well. With the corkboard, the homemade corkboard on the wall. That was for me the best point. What we tried to get across the most. In our thriller, in the end, we did follow some typical codes and conventions. For example, a typical thriller has a male killer. We thought this would be good, because the audience could then associate our opening sequence with a thriller, and it'll come across to them as a thriller. Just much like in Seven, there's a male killer. We feel as a whole the completed thriller was a good example of an opening sequence. We feel it did have some degree of professionalism. It can be improved in some areas in order to make it more professional though. For example, the camera angles and the graphics we used. I feel we could have used a bit more, and audio as well within that. I think the mise-en-scène for us was really important. We wanted to include, like I said before, the darkness, the low lighting. But once we had to think about it, once we included the low lighting, we wanted to give our killer's house the homely feeling, as though ordinary he wasn't a killer, during the day he wasn't a killer. For this, when we got into his bedroom, we decided to have everything normal. We decided to make the lighting good so that it was warmly feeling. There was things that weren't associated with killing around, so that the audience could then think that maybe he wasn't a killer, start questioning things, which is what we like. So yeah, for our final full analysis of our thriller, I've included that in section 12, where we've looked at the codes and conventions. We've looked, for example, at graphics, editing, sound, mise-en-scène, the narrative, and the typical codes and conventions that we've used, and also our justification for the film, the way we got to the idea of having an assassination. That is in section 3 in my brainstorming ideas, where we just looked at what we could have, the 3 stories we'd like, and then we narrowed them down and finally came up with our final one. Thank you for listening.